Evolution will win the debate in the next 15 to 30 years. Korean schools ditch evolution from the textbooks, and wouldn't you know it, the majority of Americans still believe creation over evolution. This is Genesis Week. And welcome to this episode of Genesis Week, the weekly program of creationary commentary on news, views, and events pertaining to the origins controversy made possible by the supporters of CORE Ottawa, Citizens for Origins Research and Education. Excellence in pirate broadcasting this week from a top-secret location in Newfoundland while conducting more field research on the massive mountain plain ocean surface here. The authorities will never find me here. We bring you the information the anti-creationists don't want you to see or hear, and we'll give glory to the Creator while doing it. Remember, you can find us at Wazooloo.com or GenesisWeek.com, and you can peruse other episodes conveniently using the links in the upper corners of each episode. You can also subscribe to this channel by clicking the link in the top center. I'm your host, Ian Juby. This past week, Richard Leakey, paleontologist and son of the famous paleontologists Lewis and Mary Leakey, said in an Associated Press interview that he thinks the creation-evolution debate will soon be settled. As AP put it, sometime in the next 15 to 30 years, scientific discoveries will have accelerated to the point that even the skeptics can accept it, the Kenyan-born paleoanthropologist said. That's right, sometime in the next 15 to 30 years. Because over 150 years of scientific research just hasn't been able to produce enough convincing evidence for evolution. That little fact alone should make one sit up and ask some questions. Leakey has, inadvertently, acknowledged that the evidence is not yet convincing enough, even after 150 years of research. In fact, you'll hear of people all the time who were evolutionary scholars, who wound up rejecting the evolutionary faith because of the evidence, not in spite of it. YouTuber HugeNX2000 was one of those people who carried out an honest appraisal of the scientific evidence, particularly in genetics, and came to the obvious conclusion that creation is the faith that fits the facts, and evolution is the faith that the facts have failed. In his most recent video, put out in response to Leakey's comments, HugeNX2000 wrote, "For me, the debate is already over, only it is creation which has won out and not evolution, as Leakey predicted. The evidence both for creation and against evolution is substantial, decisive, and clear." In my documentary, Persuaded by the Evidence, I interviewed 6 men who were all former evolutionists, a couple of them militant atheists, who all became persuaded by the evidence that evolution must be false and creation must be true. Now, you can hear their stories for yourself, but we should ask the question, what was it exactly that convinced these people? Leakey's specialty, of course, is the alleged fossil human lineage. Well, let's take a look at it. Here's a reconstruction of the alleged human evolution timeline. Now, crucial to this chart is the timeline. Time, the sequence is built up and based upon the alleged ages of the fossils. But the ages of the fossils are determined by evolutionary interpretation. Skull 1470 was a classic example of this circular reasoning and the working of the alleged dating methods to come up with an age for the skull that was deemed acceptable by the evolutionary theory. Now, I dealt with this in part 21 of Complete Creation. Some viewers last week were mighty quick to relegate the time scale to the trash bin. This time scale is of crucial significance to the hominid ancestry. For example, let's reverse the time scale, with the humans dated older than the apes. This chart then becomes a disaster as far as evolutionary sequence. So you cannot say that the timescale does not matter. As Leakey himself noted in the AP interview, saying, you can lay out all the fossils that have been collected and establish lineages that even a fool could work up. Now let's examine the lineage that any fool could work up. Notice that the lines connecting the hominids are a best guess based upon the absence of evidence. The dashed lines are alleged connections between hominids, and the reason they are dashed is because you will get different answers as to where those dashed lines connect, depending on which evolutionary anthropologist you ask. When I say absence of evidence, I need to emphasize just how significant this absence is. In 2008, a discovery of a group of gorillas in Africa established a gorilla population of between 175,000 and 225,000. Let's use the lower figure of 175,000 and a typical lifespan of 40 years, and give a best guess as to just how many hominids may have lived on planet Earth, according to the alleged evolutionary timescale. Now, an alleged 5 million years of human evolution would equate to about 125,000 generations, which gives us a very conservative figure of 21,875,000,000 individuals that would have lived throughout that time. And it is alleged that the majority of them lived in Africa. If only 1 in 1,000 of those individuals produced a single fossil, a single toe bone as compared to their entire skeleton, for example, there should then be almost 22 million fossils to be found. Now, this is using numbers that are exceedingly generous to the evolutionary timescale. Where are all these fossils of our alleged human ancestry? Notice the chart is predominantly speculation with absence of evidence. As I pointed out in last week's show, we find literally tens of thousands of human fossils in the fossil record, the majority of which predate all of our alleged hominid ancestors, according to the evolutionary timescale. We have just turned our evolutionary ancestry on its head and turned our chart into a meaningless disaster as far as evolutionary sequence. And this was accomplished merely by adding in actual evidence that was originally left out of the charts. You never hear about this evidence. So all of these alleged hominid ancestors, no matter how impressive they may seem at first, are completely moot, as modern humans are found in rock layers dated evolutionarily older than all of the hominids. Notice that the human fossils are not considered out of place for creationists, because we would contend humans have been around since the beginning of time. These human fossils are only considered out of place because they do not line up with the evolutionary sequence. And I think it has become pretty obvious that this sequence is fiction. On that note, two other points of interest that came out this week was a Gallup poll that showed that the majority of Americans still believe in creation over evolution. And Nature magazine was all up in arms because South Korea was removing alleged evidence for evolution from their school textbooks. Alleged evidence for evolution, like our ancestral chart of human evolution, which you have just seen how reliable that is. It is interesting to note that South Korea could hardly be called a primitive society when it comes to science and technology. They are world leaders, and their science and technology fares just fine, even without evolutionary teaching. And could it be that the majority of Americans embrace creation because many of those people have indeed looked at the alleged scientific evidence for evolution and found evolutionary theory to be desperately wanting? Mail for me? I wonder what it tastes like. Thanks to those of you who wrote in. Sorry about the mix-up with moderation. YouTube was acting kind of flaky in how it handled comments. I think I got it worked out now. Numerous comments were riding the fine edge of being personal, but I approved them nonetheless because they were at least on topic and I felt that they could add to the discussion. On the Lucy comment, the knee joint, AL121-1, found first, and then Lucy, AL288-1, was found the next. The two knee joints from both specimens match in terms of morphology, and so it was concluded that they were the same species. The quote is Dr. Lovejoy's commentary, and that is all. At 9:18, I can't believe you were repeating this lie about Lucy's knee. You've been formally corrected before, but here it is again. Lucy was discovered with her own knee, all at the same location time. Then later, they discovered a completely different knee from a completely different specimen of the same species in a different site. The knee from the second specimen was never said to belong to the Lucy skeleton. Please correct this error immediately. You guys apparently did not listen to what I said, as I never said the Hadar knee and Lucy's knee were the same. In fact, I said they then interpreted a chimpanzee skeleton based upon a human knee. The Hadar knee was used to interpret the Lucy skeleton. This was even acknowledged by Sweaty, who contradicted Huge Sinker while simultaneously proving my point. As Sweaty mentioned, the claim is that Lucy's knee and the Hadar knee allegedly matched in terms of morphology, so it was concluded that they were the same species. Sweaty is correct that this is Johansson's interpretation. Thank you for verifying exactly what I said. Lucy's knee was too badly fragmented to be able to determine if she walked upright or not. The Hadar knee, on the other hand, was complete enough. Lovejoy and Johansson based their interpretation of walking upright on the Hadar knee, which was 2.5 kilometers away and 70 meters deeper in the rock layers than the Lucy skeleton. This interpretation is prolific in Johansson's writings and in the PBS Nova special. Sweaty also claimed that your comment on Dr. Lovejoy cutting Lucy from the rock on Nova is completely false. It was a recreation of him cutting the fossil from the rock. The man did forensics work for police departments. In fact, I haven't seen that episode in a while, but I believe he was cutting out a replicate for Nova. What? You clearly do not know what you were talking about. Did you even watch the Nova program? Let's go over the transcription of the show segment in question while looking for ourselves to see exactly what it was they were showing.
But all was not lost. Lovejoy decided he could restore the pelvis to its natural shape.
Lovejoy decided he could restore the pelvis.
He didn't want to tamper with the original, so he made a copy in plaster.
He didn't want to tamper with the original, so he made a copy in plaster. He cut the damaged pieces out and put them back together the way they were before Lucy died. It was a tricky job, but after taking the kink out of the pelvis, it all fit together perfectly like a three-dimensional jigsaw puzzle. As a result, the angle of the hip looks nothing like Chimp's, but a lot like ours. The reenactment even shows Lovejoy cutting the plaster casts of the pelvis. I am certainly not stating any falsehoods here. With regards to the Guadalupe skeleton, Sweaty also wrote, notice how Ian forgot to read the rest of the letter. As it continues, and there is now a plan to carry out absolute dating on the bones of this skeleton. Now you stated that the rock has been dated to 23 million years old. I have to ask how you know that before they've had a chance to date it. Again, you need to listen. I said geologist John Mackay went to the very site of the excavations and, based upon the geological maps, determined that the rocks from which the skeletons were taken were dated as Miocene. As a trained geologist, Mackay would have been identifying the rock layers by their sedimentology and stratigraphy, comparing it to the geological maps. The skeletons came from rocks dated by the evolutionists as Miocene, or 28 million years old. Mackay only verified what the original excavators said. Interestingly, the trolls attempted to post some nasty comments, usually whining about censorship. It's not censorship, it's moderation. There is a difference. And one can see in the comments the moderation was welcomed and appreciated. In all the criticisms I received from the anti-creationists, which attempted to pin fault and error upon me, not one of them showed a legitimate error on my part, but instead showed errors or false claims on their part. Yet, I did make a huge error of fact in the last show, which was caught by only one person, a well-known honest seeker of the truth and a regular viewer and commenter on my channel, T. Chapman 500, who wrote, where did you get the information about Pluto's magnetic field? I thought Pluto was unvisited by spacecraft, therefore not being able to get an accurate measurement. Thanks for writing in and catching my error. You are correct. I talked with Dr. Humphreys about this, and there was an unfortunate choice of words between two separate articles, which led me to mistakenly believe that the predictions on the Creation Research web version of Humphreys' paper was fulfilled predictions. Now, this was not the case. The predictions are highlighted in red, of which several have been fulfilled. One prediction, that of Pluto's magnetic field, has not yet been verified. Thank you for the correction. Robert wrote in again. Thanks for the great explanation on human bones and the fossil record. My colleague at the office, Tom, who originated the question during one of our regular office creation versus evolution debates, which have come about as a result of viewing your show, LOL, has actually changed his position on the issue now. Do you know anything about the reports that the Smithsonian Institute is actually taking big barges full of fossils out to sea and dumping them at night? Is this real? Thanks. I have heard this report as well, and I honestly have no idea if it is true or not. I have not personally spoken with any witnesses of this alleged event, so I have nothing to say on the matter. I really like your videos, Ian, but the fossil finger, I think, falls short of adding credence to the creation model. I have found flint nodules of similar shape in my backyard. This is just another weird-shaped stone. There are no knuckle wrinkles, and it's just too straight. If it were partially skeletonized, it would be more convincing. Yes, it looks like a finger, but surely is a natural stone formation. It reminds me of the giant fossil footprint found in granite. Regards, Jay. Thanks for writing in, and in good truth seeker fashion, demanding scrutiny. Now, I've lost count of how many people have sent me photographs of alleged fossil human parts, but you forget, I have examined this fossil finger personally. The bone and marrow, the skin layers, even the tendons were preserved in this fossil. Many an individual has gone to look at the finger with skepticism, only to walk away declaring it as a genuine fossil finger. The only ones who have doubted it were those who did not want to believe. But thank you for writing in. Oh, please, Ian Juby, read a book on evolution. Just because walking on land may have happened somewhere in the world earlier, it does not stop the physical structure of these early tetrapods being transitionary. I just don't understand your criticism. It just betrays a disastrous misunderstanding. As far as tetrapod footprints are concerned, if you don't accept the dating of the rocks, how can you accept the sequencing, i.e. that the footprints come before the fossils? Thanks for writing in. Even though Pezamanja's comment was riding the edge of being personal, well, he brought up a point that several other people brought up. Now, this is akin to the alleged fossil human ancestry. The sequence in the rocks is crucial to the construction of the evolutionary sequence. Would you not agree? Pezamanj, are you now telling me that you accept fully formed tetrapod tracks in 525 million year old rock? Does this also mean then that you would accept fossil human footprints found in the same layer as dinosaur footprints? Are you accepting the completely modern fossil bird tracks found in rocks dated some 100 million years older than the dinosaurs the birds were alleged to have evolved from? As you can see, the time sequence is a crucial part of the evolutionary paradigm. This isn't just being your grandfather's father. This is like you being 100 million years older than your grandfather. Now, Herbie Pop, it is true I reject the evolutionary dating of the rocks. My point, however, was that if we play by the evolutionary rules and use the accepted evolutionary ages assigned to those rocks, then the evolutionary sequence is turned on its head, and therefore the evolutionary sequence is invalidated. Are you telling me then that you accept these out-of-place fossil footprints as legitimate and the assigned evolutionary ages are correct? I'll leave you with all these provocative questions and call that a show for this week. Thanks for watching, and please remember to rate the video. You can also conveniently share it with your frenemies on TwitFace Plus using the convenient share button down below. Remember the words of our Creator, the Lord Jesus Christ, who said, "I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man comes to the Father but through me." We'll see you next week as we continue our pursuit of the truth.
Production software was provided for Genesis Week by the Big Valley Creation Science Museum, located just 25 minutes north of Drumheller, Alberta. Visit bbcsm.com for more details. You can help keep this program going by making a tax-deductible donation to Core Ottawa, Canada North Post Office Box 72075, Ottawa, Ontario, Canada, K2K2P4.